The year 1945 marked a turning point in the history of mankind. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki ended the horrors of World War II, but simultaneously ushered in a new and terrifying era. The atomic age, the development of nuclear weapons, has overshadowed international relations ever since, forcing humanity to confront the possibility of its own annihilation. Achieving world peace requires us to face this existential threat. Nuclear disarmament is not just a dream, it is a necessity. The destructive power of nuclear weapons is unparalleled by anything humanity has ever experienced. A single bomb can obliterate entire cities, causing widespread death and lasting environmental damage. The radioactive fallout from nuclear explosions can contaminate vast areas, poisoning the air, water, and soil for generations. The threat of nuclear war is not an abstract concept, but a very real danger that continues to haunt us. After World War II, two superpowers emerged: the United States and the Soviet Union. Their rivalry quickly escalated into the Cold War, a time of intense ideological conflict and military buildup. At the center of this rivalry was the nuclear arms race, a dangerous competition to amass ever larger and more powerful nuclear arsenals. Both sides invested enormous resources in developing new and even more destructive weapons, driven by a mix of fear, paranoia, and the desire for global dominance. The arms race was a vicious cycle of fear and mistrust. Each new weapon system developed by one side was seen as a threat by the other, prompting a counter-reaction. This led to a rapid escalation in the number and destructive power of nuclear weapons, as the world held its breath while the superpowers edged closer to the brink of nuclear war. The Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, when the US and the Soviet Union came dangerously close to conflict over the deployment of Soviet missiles in Cuba, was a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in the nuclear age. Beyond the immediate threat of nuclear war, nuclear weapon tests have had devastating environmental impacts. During the Cold War, hundreds of nuclear tests were conducted in the atmosphere, releasing massive amounts of radioactive material into the environment. This radioactive fallout spread across the globe, contaminating air, water, and soil. The consequences of this contamination are still felt today, as areas affected by fallout see increased rates of cancer and other health problems. Nuclear explosions also release chemicals that damage the Earth's ozone layer. This layer, high in the atmosphere, protects life on Earth from the harmful ultraviolet radiation of the sun. The thinning of the ozone layer allows more of this radiation to reach the Earth's surface, increasing the risk of skin cancer, cataracts, and other health issues. While the ozone layer is slowly recovering, the legacy of nuclear tests continues to pose a threat to human health and the environment. Yes, the Cold War presented proponents of nuclear disarmament with a dilemma. The dangers of nuclear weapons were undeniable, but complete and immediate disarmament was seen as impractical and potentially destabilizing. Both the United States and the Soviet Union possessed vast nuclear arsenals, viewing these arsenals as a deterrent against an attack by the other side. The logic of deterrence held that while the possession of nuclear weapons was dangerous, it actually prevented war by making the costs of aggression too high. Disarmament also posed logistical challenges. It would be incredibly difficult to verify that both sides were adhering to an agreement to reduce or eliminate their nuclear arsenals. The technology to detect and monitor nuclear weapons was still in its infancy, and there was great mistrust between the superpowers. Every disarmament treaty had to overcome these technical and political obstacles to be successful. Progress after the Cold War, A New Hope. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the subsequent collapse of the Soviet Union in 1990 marked the end of the Cold War and sparked hope for a world without the threat of nuclear war. With the easing of superpower rivalry, the world entered a phase of reduced nuclear tensions. The United States and Russia, the successor state to the Soviet Union, signed a series of arms control agreements aimed at reducing the size of their nuclear arsenals. The Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, signed in 1991, and its successor START II, signed in 1993, committed the United States and Russia to significantly reduce their strategic nuclear warheads and delivery systems. These treaties, along with other arms control measures, led to a drastic decline in the number of nuclear weapons worldwide. While these developments were encouraging, challenges to nuclear disarmament remained. The collapse of the Soviet Union brought new challenges for nuclear disarmament. The Soviet nuclear arsenal was spread across several republics, including Ukraine. Six, the challenge of the former Soviet republics, loose warheads, and an uncertain future. The collapse of the Soviet Union brought new challenges for nuclear disarmament. The Soviet nuclear arsenal was spread across several republics, including Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Belarus. These newly independent states were pressured to relinquish control over these weapons. But it raised concerns about their own security in a world where they could no longer rely on the Soviet shield. The issue of loose warheads, nuclear weapons, or materials falling into the wrong hands became a major concern in the post-Cold War era. The possibility that terrorist groups or rogue states could acquire nuclear weapons or materials on the black market made securing these materials even more urgent. International efforts focused on assisting the former Soviet republics in dismantling and securing their nuclear weapons and materials to prevent them from falling into the wrong hands. Section 7. Nuclear deterrence, a necessary evil. The concept of nuclear deterrence. The idea that a state's possession of nuclear weapons deters other states from attacking because they fear retaliation, has been a cornerstone of international security since the dawn of the nuclear age. Proponents of deterrence argue that it has prevented a major war between nuclear powers and that despite its risks, it is the most effective means of preventing a nuclear war. Critics of deterrence consider it a dangerous and unstable policy based on the assumption that all actors will act rationally. They point to numerous close calls during the Cold War, like the Cuban Missile Crisis, as proof that deterrence can fail. They also argue that continued reliance on nuclear weapons creates a climate of fear and mistrust, making the world a more dangerous place. The debate over the ethics and effectiveness of nuclear deterrence continues to this day, with no simple answer to whether deterrence is a necessary evil or a disaster. Section 8. Leasing for security, a new approach. In light of the challenges of nuclear proliferation and changes in warfare, new and innovative security approaches are needed. One such approach is the concept of leasing military assets, like aircraft carriers, to fulfill security commitments. The decision for Germany to lease aircraft carriers from the United States to meet its NATO obligations is an example of this kind of innovative thinking. This approach offers several benefits. For the lessees, it provides access to advanced military capabilities without the enormous costs and logistical challenges of building and maintaining their own forces. For the providing country, it strengthens alliances and helps cover the costs of maintaining a large military force. Leasing agreements could be tailored to the specific needs of the involved countries, making them a flexible and cost-effective way to respond to evolving security threats. Section 9. Innovative solutions beyond traditional thinking. Besides leasing military assets, a number of other innovative solutions have been proposed to improve global security and reduce reliance on nuclear weapons. These include strengthening international institutions. Organizations like the United Nations play a crucial role in promoting dialogue, resolving disputes, and enforcing international law. It is essential to strengthen these institutions and provide them with the resources they need to effectively address global challenges. Investing in diplomacy and conflict prevention. Preventing conflicts from escalating is far more effective than trying to resolve them once they have broken out. Investing in diplomacy, mediation, and conflict resolution mechanisms is crucial. Promoting sustainable development and addressing the root causes of conflict. Conflicts are rooted in poverty, inequality, and lack of access to resources. Addressing these underlying issues through sustainable development initiatives can help create a more peaceful and just world. Cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. As technology advances, so do the threats to global security. Cyber attacks and the use of artificial intelligence in warfare present new and complex challenges that require innovative solutions. International cooperation in these areas is essential to ensure that these technologies are used responsibly and ethically. Section 10. Conclusion. A future free from fear. The threat of nuclear war has loomed over humanity for decades. The end of the Cold War offered a glimmer of hope, but the challenges of nuclear proliferation, terrorism, and the possibility of accidental or miscalculated use of nuclear weapons remain very real. Achieving a future free from the fear of nuclear war requires a multifaceted approach that includes disarmament, non-proliferation, and the development of new and innovative security strategies. It requires a commitment from all nations to dialogue, cooperation, and the peaceful resolution of conflicts. The task ahead is immense, but the alternative, a world consumed by nuclear fire, is unthinkable. The future of humanity depends on our ability to muster the courage, wisdom, and political will to rid the world of this existential threat once and for all.